and we're already having fun. But anyway, welcome to the Founding Voices podcast, a series of conversations with the humans who showed up before there was a map. I'm Perry, the founder of the Octopus Movement, and I believe nonlinear thinking is not just a way of creating possibilities, it's a way of being in the world. Each week, I speak with three founding members of our global human mycelium to explore who they are, why they think differently, and how they're shaping a future that cannot be built in straight lines. Let's meet today's guest, awesome guest, Eran Thomson, a widely creative leader, storyteller, human dynamo who works spans creative direction, improvisation, entrepreneurship, and corporate culture transformation. Yeah, Aaron. Aaron has built his life around helping teams and individuals unlock creativity, spark connection, and lean into the joy of possibility. Whether through improvisation workshops with PowerProf, writing and directing, or leading transformative creative training experiences. Aaron calls himself the pusher, and it's more than a title. I love that title. His work is about making creativity accessible, communication alive, and collaboration joyful. He uses storytelling, improv, and human intelligence to help people loosen the grips of fear and step into presence, expression, and connection. Yeah, we're setting up the expectations for a conversation here, Aaron. In today's conversation, we will go beyond strategy and touch into play chords, insight, and the human art of possibility. Exactly the kind of space the octopus movement exists to explore. Let's dive in with Eran Thomson. Hi, Eran Thomson.
Hi, Perry.
Hi,
I
Eran.
assume that I have 28 minutes to live up to that introduction now. Thank you.
Don't you
See,
love AI? AI helps us in such an amazing way to create an introduction like that, right? I
yeah.
didn't write this. I just gave the instructions like, I think Aaron is really cool. So write something really cool. Focus on the joy pusher because I like that a lot. And I know Aaron well. You stayed in my house for a few weeks. We had so much fun. You walked with my dog so many times with Charlotte, and you had an English Springer Spaniel as well. We will dive into that later. First question first, Aaron and audience. It's 11 o'clock in Sydney on a Friday evening. So be gentle to Aaron. First, gentle question, Aaron, is how do you see the octopus in you? That means you are a very nonlinear thinker. You're a creative soul. You understand the pause between thoughts, the emptiness between thoughts. You understand silent minds, the connection. What is the octopus in you?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. Look, I think for me, the answer that kind of leaps to the surface right away is around a passion for and a delight in possibility and potential, and a curiosity for all things. And just I think one of the things that would have been clear to anyone paying attention during your intro is that I have been and am interested in a lot of things. I've explored a lot of different types of things, both personally, creatively, and professionally and personally. And I think, that inner octopus, the way that you describe it, is someone, at least for me, who is constantly reaching out for the new thing, for the interesting thing, for the exciting thing, for the unknown thing, the unexplored thing. And uh, I think that can be both powerful and sometimes dangerous. So, and what I mean by that is it's powerful in that you have the potential to become broadly knowledgeable and skillful in a lot of areas, and you can then combine those takings, if you will, into to create new things, and that's powerful and valuable. But you can also start a lot of things that you never finish, and so for me, that's the constant battle. I think that if I was to kind of imagine my inner octopus, it would be like, "Ooh, look at that! Don't touch it! Ooh, don't touch it! You got enough going on over here. Keep those tentacles in. Keep those tentacles focused on what you've already collected and gathered.
Control your suckers, right?
Control your suckers.
Control the suckers, people.
Yes.
Is that a bad thing? Is that a bad thing not to finish things? How do you see that? Because
Is
it
it a
sounds
bad?
now like, if you don't finish it, it's not a good thing. But is it? Or is there a balance maybe in having joy and finishing things?
I love this question because I think it invites a possible reframing of failure. I think a lot of people think of walking away from something or not finishing something as failure. And in the phrasing of your question, there's implied delight in the doing, right? Or in the discovery or in the possibility. And I think that's important. But I also think, it's possible that you could find yourself in a situation where you've explored a lot of things but never taken any of them to their fullest potential, and whether or not that's due to a lack of focus or not, is a longer discussion and dependent on the type of person someone is. But I think, I'm going through it, right. I think I'm constantly going through it. Is Here's an idea. Is it valuable? Could I monetize it? Could it bring people joy? Could it be interesting, engaging, rewarding? There might be a myriad of reasons why I'd want to pursue that idea. But then I will probably start. I'll buy a domain, make a logo. Talk to my friends about it, and then lose momentum and realize, okay, actually, it could be a thing, but it's not my thing. And I think that's probably, if I was to wrap this question up, or this answer to your question up with a bow, it would be, as much as you might be delighted by and curious about things, it's also good to use that exploration process to hopefully land on and discover your own unique ability, the thing that you do better than anyone, the thing that is truly your gift to bring to the world. And if you discover that, and once you know what that is, if all the things you're sticking your tentacles onto are some way connected to that, that to me is potentially a definition of success.
I think we need to surrender ourselves, right? In that space where it's okay not to finish. It's okay to create the opportunity to do things that serve something else that you can't see yet, in my opinion. Because if you don't finish something and you started with the domain and all the ideas, and the website is ready, and you
Yeah.
but the momentum, maybe you're not taking the momentum, but maybe you can feel that the momentum is not there, and it's still, I don't know how that works with you. So that's the second question. So if it's still simmering there and you haven't finished it, but it's still alive somewhere in our brains, right? How does that work for you? Does that happen sometimes, that you open up a drawer and you're like, I got you now, you little fuck. I'm going to bring you to market now, because now it's the right time, and everything is prepared and it's already there, and it's very easy to make it happen. Does that happen in your life, Eran?
I think so. I mean, there's what's it like saying, luck is preparedness plus opportunity, right? So sometimes you have those ideas and they're not the right timing. There's a
Yeah.
great TED talk that this guy did about startups, and he talks about all the different startups that have existed in the world, and the dozens of people who tried to make Twitter work, a version of Twitter work, a version of YouTube work, and the one variable that makes them work is that made the ones that we all know work is timing, right?
Timing is everything, right?
Timing is everything. And
And
I think
yeah, go ahead.
I was just
Sorry.
going to say, in terms of like not finishing things, sometimes that's about procrastination. And I think, again, procrastination has a negative connotation and label. However, someone once reframed that for me as, if you find yourself procrastinating, it's usually because you don't have enough information to take a next step. So instead of focusing on the not doing, figure out what the next step is, right? And take one small step, like, or figure out what it is you need to learn.
Hmm. Isn't timing nonlinear? So if you, I love that debate with startups, right? What makes a startup successful, and what are the odds? And it's the people involved and timing, of course. And you can have the most brilliant people involved and it doesn't happen. Timing is everything. But isn't the thing around timing that you cannot time timing? Meaning, you can't control timing, otherwise it's not timing, it's planning. So isn't timing the most impressive factor of success? Isn't that just very nonlinear? And therefore, in your area of life, creativity.
Is there a question?
Well, the question is, you talk about creativity and
Yeah.
joy all the time. And I'm wondering if timing is nonlinear and it's very difficult to grab and to control. I'm wondering, so the real question is, how can you control creativity?
Ooh, well,
Friday evening, right? Sorry,
yeah.
Eran.
How do you control creativity? I don't know that you can. I think it's its own force. It's its own power. It's it's its own energy. I think it can be stifled. I think it can be ignored. I think it can be dismissed. Right?
But how do you do it then when people, this is you, I've seen you in action. I know how you operate. You've written the manifesto for the Octopus Movement, so good at it. And you, people that are stuck, right? So they're not in their right timing, they're stuck in their creativity. And Eran comes in and takes it over and uses his creativity and make it happen. So what is the difference for you, um, between, oh, let's think outside of the box, so command be creative, and being in the box differently, meaning it's not an action to be creative, but you're creative all the time. From your perspective, what is the big difference between the two of them?
Between thinking outside the box and then
Yeah.
or
So
being
now
in.
let's be
Yeah.
creative and always have a creative mind. What is the difference between that? Taking, thinking about all the people you've met and all the things you've done, and also with your improv, what is the difference there?
Well, I mean, in terms of improv, like improvisation, as a philosophy, a lot of people only think of comedy or jazz music when they think of improv, but really what improv is it's a toolbox, and the most valuable part of that toolbox is probably learning how to react, adapt, and communicate. React to new information, adapt to that new information, communicate with yourself, with others, and people around you, how you're going to respond to that new information and keep moving forward and building on each other's ideas. And that is a teachable skill. Whether or not that is, creative genius or not is a discussion for another time. But I think you can teach people how to tap into their latent creativity if they're not already accustomed to doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, and on a scale of, I decided which color T-shirt to wear today to, my works in the Guggenheim, there's a big range, right? And I think
That you said that very well. That was a very nice phrase, right?
But I think it's also like it's interesting because there are a lot of people who work in creative industries that still can be quite linear. I work in one now. I still work in the advertising world, and there are a lot of people in that world who are copywriters, art directors, creative directors, who can be very creative people, but in that profession, they can be quite linear and focused only on that. And if you take them out of the kind of world of an ad agency or a design agency or a creative firm, and suddenly ask them to think creatively about other things, not all of them can do it because they're conditioned to using their creativity a certain way,
Yeah.
following a certain process. And so I think I think that's an interesting challenge, right? And one of the things I come across all the time is people saying that they're not creative, right? What are you showing me? The Obvious Adams, the story of successful businessmen. Yeah.
Do you know this little book? It's
I've
about
heard that expression. I don't think I've
advertising
read
age.
the book.
These and obvious atoms. Really cool. So people read this. Talking about people, who comes to mind immediately? Who's you just said creatively brilliant, and we know the NASA search, in '65 to find the creative, brilliant minds, and that those are kids between 3 and 5, and only 2% of the adults are creatively brilliant. Suckers. Who comes to mind immediately with you when I say creatively brilliant? Who's the most creatively brilliant person you have ever met?
Oh my goodness. The most brilliantly creative person I've ever met. Well, I don't know, a bunch of people come to mind, and it's all contextual, like, whether it's art or advertising or film direction. Yeah, that's a hard one. I think
It's a good thing that many names come to mind. I know a little bit about your stories, living in New York, living the life in New York with all the creativity and all the madness, being in Sydney, in LA, writing for TV series. You're being humble here, I know. For me, if someone would ask me who's someone who's creatively brilliant, I would I would also say your name, definitely, Eran Thomson. I think you're such a creatively brilliant, amazing human being that connects so many things together and sees things. And you're, for me, creatively brilliant, for sure.
well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for saying that. That's high praise, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
it's true,
Um,
right?
well, it's
Do you
interesting.
agree with this when I say that about you?
Yes, I agree.
I like that
I
answer.
will take
That's
that
very good.
praise.
That's very good.
I
So
will
what
stick to that.
so what are
Yeah.
you curious about today, Erin? What's happening with your curiosity today? What's sparking your interest?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's sparking my interest right now is the agency that I'm working for spends a lot of time helping global brands, build their presence and gain attention and eyeballs on social media. And I am trying to take everything I'm learning in that environment and apply it to my own creativity and my own unique abilities. And one of the things that I find interesting is, I'm very much interested in storytelling and the power of storytelling. I think it's the way that we as humans learn the best, connect the most, and and I think it's our most powerful kind of tool as humans is the power of a good story. And what I see on social media is we're in a time where the only objective of just about every piece of content is to stop the scroll, and people obsess over hooks, and they obsess over the thumbnail, and they obsess over the right font for the subtitles. Um, and I guess what I'm curious about right now is, is there a home on social media for just good storytelling, more of that kind of campfire moment rather than the 30-second dopamine hit that we're all going there for. And, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or some of the newer, platforms like Upscroll, like I'm still trying to figure out like where the obvious home for that sort of thing is. And so that's something that I've been thinking about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting when you asked about who the people are that I think of when I think of, wildly creative. The people that are inspiring me right now are some of the great storytellers, like Mike Birbiglia. I don't know if anyone who knows who Mike Birbiglia is, but he's this. He's somewhere between like a stand-up comedian. I mean, he does do stand-up, but his shows are, Broadway shows where it's just him on the stage telling stories, and it's funny, it's heartwarming. There's great callbacks and great, diversions off the linear path of the story to tell other things and then come back to the through line. And so for me, I'm finding a lot of joy right now in sort of reconnecting with people like Mike Birbiglia, David Sedaris, comedians like George Carlin, and maybe Tom Segura.
Are those the ones that also inspire you the most? And hmm, I don't like this question, but I mean, we all need our inspiration, and um, for me, it's art. When I go to an art exhibition that really moves me, I get inspired a lot. But I also get inspired when I just read a book and there's one sentence that can trigger everything, and I'm like, stop everything! I need to write this down, and then a lot of other things happen. So art, reading, these kind of things. How is that for you? Where do you get your inspiration the most?
Yeah, well, I
Is it
think
surfing? Is it being on the beach?
no.
No.
I mean, quiet time is powerful, right? Like having space, between to creating space in your life so you can have that space between thoughts, to use a phrase I've heard
Yeah.
someone say before, right? You know, that's that's important. Um, but I think I was gonna the joke answer I was gonna give you to your question about who inspires me the most was gonna be New York City. It's not a person, it's a place.
Yeah.
I feel like New York, while it's become quite homogenized in the last few years, and the fabric of that city has changed dramatically. It's still a place where you can go and be delighted and surprised as soon as you leave your hotel or your front door. Something weird that
Everything is happening, right? The
everything is
diversity is
happening.
crazy. Yeah.
Nothing that you could have expected or planned is going to happen. Everyone you meet is going to be doing interesting, cool shit.
Yeah.
Like it is an inspiring place to be.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I think stimulus and inputs are good, but then you need time away to process and
Hmm.
connect.
Yeah. It's both. And I know you've died. So now, very serious note, serious music now. You've died almost a dozen times, or even a dozen times. You almost died a dozen times. Let me put it that way. It's crazy. That story, Aaron, is crazy. No one has a story like that. Seriously, in how you've been so close on not being on this planet anymore. Um, is that the joy pusher? Is that why there is so much focus for you on joy? Because it's very fragile. Everything is that linked to each other, or is this too simple?
Um, I mean, I think anybody who's had any type of life-threatening situation, right, will, if they're paying attention at all, will walk away from that with a different perspective on life, probably themselves, hopefully, and what this human experiment is, right? And so I think you do learn, or you can learn, right, that time is precious. Relationships are the most valuable thing outside of time, probably, that we have. And we have a choice with the kind of relationship that we want to have with life, right? Do we want to make life our enemy or make life our friend? Is life going to be a struggle, or is life going to be a challenge, right? And the difference there is a mindset, right? Life can be hard, but still joyful
Hmm.
and delightful. So, but the joy pusher moniker did not come from any of those experiences. It was really a byproduct of a period of time in my life a few years ago where I was, to circle back to the beginning of this conversation, going, man, I've been spending a lot of time on a lot of different things. They feel very disconnected. I'm trying to like position myself in the world some way, and I can't connect these dots. And I spent days and days and days going through, using different exercises, ikigai graphs and like all the things, right, to try and go, what's the through line between everything I've ever done? And it was actually my ex-wife who said, you know, everything you've ever done has always been about bringing joy to the world, bringing joy to others.
Hmm.
And you're like a drug dealer who sells joy. And I was like, a joy pusher, right? And I was like, I don't know, and it just sounded stuck. I don't know, like
You're
I
a
like,
drug dealer selling joy.
yeah.
Eran Thomson.
Someone
I like that phrase. Yeah.
someone told me the other day, like, you really want to be associated with drug culture, and I was like, I don't know, it's not
Forget
bad
about
for
the laws of thought, people. It's your thoughts. It's irrelevant, right? The drug dealer enjoy. I love it.
yeah,
Maybe we
yeah.
should we should give it this title for this podcast. Imagine, Aaron, imagine you could whisper something in everybody's ear right now, globally. Everyone, every culture, they're all able to understand English, and you can whisper something in their ear right now. What would it be? And sorry to put you on the spot. I never prep anyone for this conversation. So these questions are always like, okay, I'm not prepared for that. Sorry, but if you could whisper something in someone's ear and someone is everyone on this planet, what would it be?
Trust your gut.
That's it, right?
Trust, trust your instincts. Believe
Yeah.
in yourself. You probably know the answer. You probably already have the right answer.
Hmm.
Trust your gut.
That's it.
That's it.
It's that simple. Cool. Okay. Trust your gut. We can do that. No, that's yeah. Not everybody can do that. But anyway, um, if you would be able to create a workshop for yourself, um, any workshop that you can follow, what would it be?
If I were to create a workshop for myself, what would it
Yeah,
be?
yeah.
Well, I mean, the I'm actually I've actually been working on a workshop, um, which I created to solve my own problem, which is like, what am I what am I doing now? What am I doing next? And what I realized in sharing some of my process with people who are observing me go through it, and people who've seen me reinvent myself time and time again, was I was taking the 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 tools that we use in an advertising context to help brands reinvent themselves and build fame and find their direction, uh, and applying those tools to my own self. So using the phases of research and strategy, implementation, and execution, and like just basically taking that advertising creative process from start to finish and applying it to myself. So I think the workshop that I'm developing for me and that I'm sharing with others who are interested is called the Creative Brief for Your Life. And
Hmm.
basically, it just helps um, people who are feeling a bit stuck or maybe a bit displaced in a world of AI. They're worried about their future, worried about their jobs, wondering where they fit in, not sure what their unique ability is or what their special purpose is. And so I'm using that workshop to sort of like help myself and also help other people unpick that for themselves and find a path.
Yeah. I would see that as a falling in love session where I've seen that once. I don't know if I shared this with you, but I know there was this retreat where they would organize a falling in love session. And they would invite creative thinkers like you, and they would have one guest, and then a whole team of creative minds would be working with that one guest for a week, and that one guest would do something awesome in the world, and that would be their gift to that person. um, and the first 2 days was about falling in love to that person, finding out what that person is doing, who that person really is, and then have the creative machine going for the rest of the 5 days or 4 days, whatever, to really create something beautiful, and set up the branding so everybody understands how awesome this person, this human being is. So
Well, it
I
sounds
love
great.
that. Yeah, I love that, and I love every angle of it: the creative angle, the guest angle, the falling in love angle, the power to really create something beautiful for a human being rather than a brand for sporting shoes and with a return on investment. And I love Nike, and Just Do It is awesome, and the swoosh is awesome. But how cool would it be to do something like that for humans? So keep me posted on that, Eran Thomson.
I
I
will.
find that a very interesting workshop.
Does that exist, what you're describing? The falling in love thing?
Sorry?
The falling in love thing, is that a thing that already exists?
Yes.
Yeah. What's it called?
I don't know. I will look
Oh,
it up for you. I
okay.
will find it. I
We'll
thought
put
it
it in
was
the show
awesome.
notes.
And
Yeah.
especially it's interesting because the creative minds that are attending this retreat are paying, and the special guest that they're organizing the whole branding for is a guest and is not paying.
Wow.
What an awesome concept, right?
Flair.
Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you, Eran. Thank you for being here. Um, Not just on this podcast, but thank you for being in the movement as a founding member. Thank you for helping us writing the manifesto. Thank you for always being there. And if you're listening to this and you feel a spark, please follow it. Nonlinear thinking is not a strategy, it's a kind of love, and it grows where we share it. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Eran Thomson.
Thank you, Perry, for everything you're doing too.